Thank you for coming to the Oregon Referee Committee Changes to the Laws of the Game for 2019 and 2020. I'm going to go over the material that has been provided by IFAB, and the presentation that you're going to see has been translated by U.S. Soccer into a format that we expect referees to implement here under U.S. Soccer. The videos that are contained within this presentation should work, and after this session, I will actually send out this material so that you can review it at home. If, however, at the end of this presentation, you still have lingering questions about law changes, you can go to theifab.org. On their website, they have a version of this presentation. It is an Adobe PDF. The videos are embedded inside of the Adobe PDF, which means that you have to use Adobe Flash Player in order for the videos to work. Okay, once you install that, you can go into the videos and they work just fine. Okay, there are further examples in there of the particular law changes. That being said, let's get started. So as FIFA does every year, they meet with the IFAB and they go over a series of law changes based on experiments that have been going on and other things that they've noticed within the game to change. Notably, yellow and red cards for misconduct by team officials, players being substituted leaving the field of play at the nearest boundary line, and changes to goal kicks and free kicks for defending teams inside of their own penalty area. There are other law changes, but these are some of the big ones. First things first, substitute player leaving the field of play. In the past, or under the current version of the laws of the game that you might still be operating under, players are required to leave at the halfway line closest to the two technical areas, or they may leave anywhere around the field, okay? In the current, now the new version of the laws of the game, we're asking that players leave at the closest point that they are at, right? So that means that you might have players leaving from the far side of the field, which if you're an assistant referee, not used to typically paying attention to players leaving the field of play, you might need to monitor where that player is, because if the player steps onto the field across the goal line and denies an obvious goal scoring opportunity or something like that, you now have a new sanction that you have to deal with and a restart that all changed last year, okay? So be mindful of where the players are on the field and what they're doing on their way back, okay? Now, when you're reading these laws of the game, remember who you're actually refereeing, okay? If you typically referee use small, use common sense. If you have a young player getting sent into a crowd of rabid fans, that might not be within your best interest, okay? Or the coach's best interest. So the best place to talk about this before the game, or the best place to talk about this is before the game begins, okay? If you meet with the coaches before the game and clarify how do you want the players to actually leave the field of play, and just be consistent, okay? That should alleviate some of these problems, all right? Deal with it at the beginning, therefore you don't have to deal with it later on, okay? So this is the new text that's in there in the laws of the game now. So player receives permission to leave the field of play unless they're already off the field. They must leave at the nearest point of the boundary line unless the referee indicates that the player may leave directly and immediately at the halfway line or another point, such as for their safety or for an injury, okay? This also means for safety and injuries, the player does not ceremonially have to walk all the way across the field, as we often see. They can leave at that closest point and walk around, okay? Again, common sense. If they're used small, be mindful and send them off at a safe place, okay? If the substituted player refuses to leave, then you allow play to continue, okay? So if the player doesn't want to step off of the field for whatever reason, just restart play, okay? Now, as referees that are paying attention to the fact that now players are leaving anywhere off of the field, that means that now when you bring a player on, if you are a referee that expects to use the time for substitutions to catch your breath, that time is now going to dwindle, right? Because suddenly the player's off, new player's on, and they're expecting you to restart, okay? So here's an example of this. For those of you playing at home, there is no audio. And just like that, right? Player tells his teammate, hey, leave on that side of the field. Player steps off of the field, referee beckons the other player on, they pick up the ball, they throw it in, okay? This should speed up your substitutions, unless you don't want them to be. All right, moving on. Yellow and red cards for team officials. In the past, referees have had a little bit of a problem managing coaches and other personnel within the technical area, okay? If you've attended a session that I typically teach in the fall or the spring regarding how Oregon Youth Soccer expects the laws to be applied to the youth league, I spend a fair amount of time talking specifically how to deal with coaches within their technical areas. What is appropriate for them to be? What can they actually do? We've also had situations where referees are unsure of when they should actually act. Now, in this new version of the laws of the game, they're going to tell you, you now give a yellow card or red card for these specific reasons, which means that if you're a person who's thinking to yourself, I have a coach and I don't really know what to say, there's less you have to say now, because now you can just simply show them a yellow and red card, okay? So, for younger officials that are often afraid or unknown, or don't know rather, what they should say to a coach, now you can actually have less to say and just simply use your misconduct tools by showing a yellow or red card, okay? And if you have a situation where the offender cannot be identified or refuses to identify themselves, then you apply the misconduct to the coach or the head coach that's on the field, okay? In my experience, when this happens, the person will generally identify themselves, especially if you're going to send somebody off. Okay, so the new wording now says, referee takes action against team officials who fail to act in a responsible manner, showing a yellow card for a caution, red card for a send-off from the field of play and its immediate surrounds, including the technical area, if the offender cannot be identified and the senior team coach present in the technical area receives a sanction. Same thing goes for medical staff, okay? When you're dealing with medical staff, be aware of your rules of competition. If they state that you have to have a medical personnel person there and you send them off, know what the rules say, okay? Sometimes they'll say that the person is allowed to stay, but at this point, sight and sound, as we used to call it, now applies, okay? I have to keep you here because you have to keep everybody safe. However, you have lost the right to participate in this game beyond that, okay? Further things, a player or team official commits a sending off offense. The referee has the authority to prevent the player or team official from taking part in the match, okay? So if it happens prior to the game starts, you can delay somebody from actually participating in the match. Player or team official commits a cautionable offense, sending off offense, either on or off the field, they're disciplined by the offense, okay? The next set of slides is simply dictating the new text that's now added, that was also added last year with other changes to Law 12. Disciplinary actions. Now they spelled out in the laws of the game what you're going to warn, caution, and send off technical personnel for, okay? So in the past, there were some situations where a coach might kick a water bottle, and depending on your rules of competition, it'd say that person would be ejected, okay? On the next slide, you'll see that's now a caution, okay? So it's now been made very, very clear what is a caution, what is a send off, and when do we actually give warnings, okay? So warnings, offenses usually result in a warning. If it's blatant or continues, then you want to give a caution or send-off. So entering the field of play in a respectful, non-confrontational manner, failure to cooperate with the match official, low-level disagreements, and leaving the confines of the technical area, okay? This also means that if you have assistant referees, be aware. Now you have a tool to actually take action against team personnel that refuse to acknowledge the space that assistant referees need in order to do their job correctly. These are now cautionable offenses, clearly persistently not respecting the confines of their team's technical area, delaying the restart of play, or deliberately entering the technical area of the opposing team, if it's non-confrontational, okay? As you spend more time refereeing, you will find that coaches and players and referees know each other, but that does not give you the right to enter into another person's technical area, okay? That is their area for them to coach their team. Dissent by word or action. So this is what I alluded to earlier, the throwing and kicking of bottles or other objects. Again, use common sense. If they're kicking it in a way to cause injury to somebody, don't give them a caution, send them off, because now they're actually trying to cause harm. Persistently gesturing for a red or yellow card. We now issue cautions back to that person for doing that, okay? Excessively showing the TV signal for a VAR review. If you're doing your youth small games and they're giving you VAR, then you can come back with a nice yellow card for that. Gesturing or acting in a provocative manner, showing a lack of respect for the game. Sending off offenses. Entering the opposing technical area in a aggressive or confrontational manner, okay? This is when the coach or team personnel leaves to then go have a nice confrontation with the other coach, okay? This is not allowed, all right? Or kicking or throwing objects directly onto the field of play. If a coach comes after a referee or one of the referee's teammates in a confrontational manner, you can send off that coach now, okay? Again, now that you can actually use yellow and red cards to show to coaches, the amount of distance or space that a coach can actually get close to you should actually increase. Because there's no words that you have to say, you can simply show them a card, okay? So keep that in mind as you're managing your game. As you manage players on the field, you keep a respectful distance. Now coaches and other team personnel have to maintain a respectful distance. Other physical or aggressive behavior, including spitting or biting towards an opposing player, substitute team official, spectator, or any other person. Okay, so if you have team personnel, they don't particularly like the ball person during that game, and they grab the ball person and throw them into the board, then show the red card to that coach or team person and remove them from the field. Obviously, if you receive 2 cautions in the same match, you will be sent off. Using offensive, insulting, or abusive language and/or gestures, or violent conduct. Using unauthorized electronic communication devices is a reason you can also be sent off from the technical area, okay? Again, use common sense. If it looks like it's made for soccer, it's probably made for soccer, meaning we now have leagues that have authorized uses of iPads and other technological devices in the technical area specifically for coaching their teams. Okay. However, if it looks like they're coordinating with other people across the field, that is not allowed. Okay. Provided they're using the tool to coach their team, then it should be allowed within the technical area. Okay. Again, read your rules of competition. They will typically spell out exactly what is and is not allowed. Okay. Other VAR protocol. If a team official successfully shows a VAR signal, again, these are additions to the current version of the laws of the game that are modifications that were made previously. Here we have an example. So here we see the referee asking repeatedly, please stop, go back, go back, go back. They refuse to go back, then the referee took action. Okay, that's all you have to do. You don't have to make this complicated. Okay, when you're speaking to coaches and other team personnel, the goal is for the behavior to stop. They can reason with you later, but you just need the behavior to stop so that you can continue the match. Okay, it's another example. Okay, so we see we have a 4th official giving the referee information. Hey, this person over here needs to be sent off for whatever reason. The referee does not enter into their technical area, maintains a safe distance, pulls out the red card, points to the person, and moves on. Okay, that's all you need to do. There is no need to invite that confrontation. Okay, we have one more clip. So if you see in the lower left of the screen, the object came from the technical area, okay? Again, manage that situation, and now you have a set of tools, which also means that since you have that misconduct, assistant referees and 4th officials pay attention to everything else that's going on the field, okay? Next, defending team free kicks inside of their own penalty area. So there was an experiment that was taking place to see if having defending teams take free kicks in the penalty area, if it would actually increase or speed the game up, okay? They found that it does, all right? So if the ball is in play now once it is kicked, and it does not have to leave the penalty area, okay? If the free kick or goal kick is close to a boundary line of the penalty area, the player still must remain 10 yards away, or 9.15 meters, depending on which system you use, away from the ball, okay? The ball is kicked when the ball is in play rather, when it's kicked and clearly moves, okay? It does not have to leave the penalty area. Okay? If there are opponents inside of the penalty area when the kick is taken, then you allow play to continue unless the ball has not been placed first. Okay? So players can remain inside of the penalty area during the taking of it, mind you that they are 10 yards away, okay? But once the player decides to take the ball, then the ball is in play, okay? So we have an example. Referee blows the whistle for a foul. Defender restarts and the play continues, okay? Now, with any type of quick free kick or goal kick restart now, be aware that if the defenders make a mistake, that's their fault, okay? At that point, you do not enforce encroachment, okay? You take a risk by taking any type of quick free kick, okay? Now again, common sense. If you're working with youth small, you might have to do more education out on the field than enforcement. But again, understand who you're actually refereeing, okay? I'll go back to my original point that I made earlier about time, all right? If you're a referee that relies on free kicks or goal kicks to catch your breath during the game, that time is now diminishing, okay? So just be aware, suddenly the ball might be in play before you expect it to, okay? So if you're not a fan of backpedaling, this is the year to start practicing. The experiment of the goal kick, the ball's in play once it's kicked, it does not have to leave the penalty area. It's created a more dynamic and constructive restart of the game, okay? So now the time that we typically add on to each half of the game because of these types of restarts should decrease, okay? However, this is not a justification not to add time on for the taking of these types of restarts, okay? So again, ball's in play when it's kicked and clearly moves. When a kick is taken, any opponents are inside the penalty area because they did not have time. The referee shall allow play to continue. The opponent who is in the penalty area when the kick is taken enters the penalty area before the ball is in play, and judges are challenged it before it is in play. The goal kick is retaken. Okay, so provided that they've kicked the ball, just let it go. Okay, if they have not played it and they try to attack it, then stop it and just restart ceremonially. I have an example. Just that simple. Okay? So be aware. You might have challenges near the penalty area that you might not have expected under the old version. Other changes to the laws of the game. There was a clearer wording of handball. We have this new attacking team players must be at least 1 meter away from a defensive wall, and goalkeepers only have to have part of 1 foot on the goal line at the taking of a penalty kick. Before we go there, we will begin with drop ball. So in the past with drop balls, we've had this situation where we have to basically referee the two players to figure out how we're actually going to drop the ball in order for the drop ball restart to occur.
This is the old thing.
This is the old thing, okay? This is the old way that we used to do it, right? And the next thing you know, you have some type of fight and you're having to deal with two players that are fighting over a drop ball, okay? We've now changed this, okay? If the ball hits a match official, goes into the goal, the ball hits a match official and the team possession changes, or if it hits a match official and a promising attack starts, you stop play and restart with the drop ball, okay? If the play is stopped inside the penalty area, then the ball is dropped for the goalkeeper. You should make it simple, okay? If the play is stopped outside the penalty area, the ball has to be dropped for one player of the team that has last touched the ball at the point of the last touch. All the players have to be at least 4 meters or 4.5 yards away, okay? If it touches the ball, if the ball touches the referee or another match official and goes into the goal, or team possession changes or promising attack starts, then you restart with the drop ball, okay? Here's an example. Ball is going into a neutral space. The referee blows the whistle, says wait. So when you restart, you drop it to that white player near the halfway line. Okay, just that player only.
Yeah.
All right. Any player. However, yes. Finish.
But at that spot. At that spot.
Here's another example. Okay. Defender is kicked hard inside of the penalty area. The referee's unsure, eventually stops play. The ball is inside of the penalty area of that team, so you restart with the drop ball. Okay. And there's one more. Okay, so in that situation, because the ball went off of the referee and an attacking play started, you stop play and you restart with a drop ball at that point of contact. Okay, now, common sense. Wait a couple seconds, wait and see what happens. All right, if no promising attack occurs or anything like that, then just allow play to continue. All right, however, if they start hauling down the field, you got a problem. Okay, free kicks. We've now defined what a wall is. Okay, a wall is defined as 3 or more defenders. The attackers are not allowed to be within 1 meter of the wall. All right, if the attacker is within 1 meter of the wall when the kick is taken, then you penalize them with an indirect free kick. Okay, again, manage this. All right, once you see the 3 players come together, that forms a wall. Okay, the defending team takes a free kick in their own penalty area. The ball is in play once the kick is taken. It does not have to leave the penalty area before it can be played. All right, so in the past, we've had this. You go in and set up your wall. You put your magic spray down, and you say, hey, relax, relax. Hey, what are you doing? Okay. And then that happens, okay? You look up, and there's players on the ground, and there's a fight, and you're wondering, I was just putting down magic spray, and now I have a red card that I have to deal with, okay?
Colombian friends that love the right.
Okay, so these are the situations that we're trying to avoid. Okay, and we can avoid this by having the attackers be a meter away from that wall. Okay, so now you'll have a situation, or you could have a potential situation like this. So to prevent attackers from throwing people out of the wall so that they can gain some type of advantage, once 3 people have come together, that forms a wall. Move the attackers at least a meter away, okay? Which also means that now you might have new tactical situations to actually deal with, okay? Because if you have a player that's a meter away from the wall and it's in all directions, now you might have a screen that did not exist before, okay? So think about this tactically. If they have to be at least a meter away from the wall, what is that player actually trying to do, okay? Are they standing in an offside position and possibly obstructing the vision of the goalkeeper because they're a meter away from the wall, okay? These are scenarios that now everybody on the field has to begin to pay attention to, okay? Other changes, these are fun ones. Goal celebrations. Even if you disallow the goal and the player decides to rip off their jersey, you still caution the player, okay? You have to keep your clothes on in soccer, all right? For a goal kick, the ball's in play once it's kicked and taken. It can be played before it leaves the penalty area. We went over this earlier when we talked about free kicks. Now we move on to handball, okay? In the past, we had situations where players would always try to put their arms in a weird location to not try to handle the ball, okay? So typically speaking, you have players that try to hide their hands behind their back, or they try to keep them close to their body in an attempt to not be called for handling and a handling offense, okay? To get rid of this, we've changed the definition of handball, or clarified it rather, okay? Deliberate handball still remain an offense, okay? So if you do this, still a handball, okay? If your arm or hand is somehow making your body unnaturally bigger, that is still a handball all day long, okay? However, even if it's accidental, there are certain situations that we now want to clarify when you actually penalize people for a handling offense, okay? If a player scores a goal, even if it's an accident with their hand or arm, you disallow the goal, okay? This is football, not handball. Different sport, different ball, okay? If a player gains control of possession after the ball touches their hand or arm and creates a goal-scoring opportunity, again, you cannot use your hand or arm to gain an advantage when playing, all right? Or if their hand or arm is making their body unnaturally bigger, okay? Now, all of this applies to the age and size of the players that you're actually dealing with, okay? So some players, that's just as how big their arms are, right? So again, use common sense and actually figure out, is this player trying to make themselves bigger or gain an advantage by having their hand or arm in that particular position, okay? We have an example? So you see here, white's anticipating the contact from green. The referee does not call a foul. Oops, I touched the ball. Yeah, that's a handball against you, okay? It was an accident, right? They thought they were actually going to get the offense called to them, and they didn't. But that doesn't mean you can just grab the ball. Have another example? It's an accident, ref. My arms just happen to be in that position, okay? Well, you do not get a goal out of this, okay? Even though it was an accident, it doesn't matter. You cannot play the ball with your hand and then suddenly score. Again, making your body unnaturally bigger in order to try to play the ball, okay? So if you're an assistant referee and you're not used to actually paying attention to how the ball lands inside of penalty areas, you might be asked to assist. So pay attention to as that ball is coming across, because you might actually have the better angle than the referee does, okay? So again, in your pregame, talk about this. How do you want to handle a situation where a player handles the ball and then scores a goal? How do you want me to signal or communicate that to you, referee? I have another example. Ball comes up, hits the hand. Still an accident. Still not allowed, right? Because the player continues going towards the goal, and that's what we do not want, okay? In the following handball situations, even if accidental, there will be a free kick. Ball touches the player's hand or arm when it is above their shoulder, okay? In the IFAB clarifications on this, generally speaking, it is not acceptable for a player to play with their hands above their head, okay? There are times when a player may, but players take risks when they put their hands above their head, and that's above shoulder height, yeah? So be aware that if the hand or arm is above the shoulder height, that's most likely not a position that is natural, okay? Have an example?
Not handling?
This is handling.
Handling, okay.
This is handling. I checked twice.
Okay.
Okay, so in this situation, this is handling, okay? Your arms are above the shoulder. That is not a natural position, right? And we could maybe call it an accident, maybe not, but in that situation, that is handling, okay? The following will not usually be a free kick unless they're the above situations. Ball touches the player's hand or arm directly from their own head, body, foot. Player is too close. Ball touches the player's hand or arm, which is close to the body, not make the body naturally bigger or unnaturally bigger. The player is following the ball happens to touch their hand or arm, which is not between their body and the ground to support themselves, okay? Contrary to the previous slide, you'll say, well, wait a minute. The player played it off of their foot and it came up. However, the distance that that ball came, that player still had an opportunity to move their hands out of that situation. And therefore, in the previous video, you would penalize that person for handling. An example of the other. Okay?
Not handling.
Not handling, okay? Player winds up, takes a shot 5 yards away. There's no way you can get out of the way of that. Okay, at that point, the player's just trying to get out of the way. All right, allow play to continue.
He did not make himself big.
Hard to see, but as the player's sliding on the ground, the ball comes through and hits their arm. Allow play to continue.
Not handling.
Not handling. Arms are close in. The player's naturally running. Ball comes by and hits their arm. Not handling. Allow play to continue. Goal kick or corner kick. Okay. Other changes. The goalkeeper cannot score by throwing the ball into the opponent's goal. Okay, it has to touch another player, right? Ball has to go in the goal propelled by something other than hand or arm. Okay. If the goalkeeper attempts to clear the ball and or from a throw-in or deliver pass from a teammate, but the clearance fails, the goalkeeper can handle the ball. Okay. They have to make an attempt to clear the ball. Okay. Provided that they do that, the goalkeeper can then touch the ball with their hands. Okay. So an example. Okay. Goalkeeper attempted to clear it. The clearance was bad. He jumped over the attacker and gained possession of the ball. Allow play to continue. Another example. Goalkeeper attempts to clear it, then goes for the ball again. Okay? Now, knowing this, if you referee, you big players, this is a new tactic. If I attempt to clear the ball, now I can actually touch the ball with my hands. Okay? So be aware. This is not the time to start backpedaling. This is the time to start running towards the penalty area, because if that goalkeeper then goes for the ball and they go through an attacker, you might not have handling. You might have a different offense. Okay? So if the goalkeeper attempts to clear and they do not clear it well and they go for the ball, you should be running towards that goal, not away. Okay? Just to manage, right? Have some presence. If it's okay, then just backpedal and get out of there. Another example. Okay? Goalkeeper attempts to clear, clearance isn't good, they come back. Okay? This is not denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity. Let the goalkeeper pick up the ball, allow play to continue. Okay? Next, start and restart a play. There's a new kickoff procedure. A team that wins the toss can pick if they want to kick off or the half. The other team gets the opposite. Now, in the laws of the game, as they wrote this, it took a page. All right? I'm going to make it real simple. Whoever wins the toss, you can either get the ball or the half. Whoever doesn't get it, they get the other thing. That simple. For those of you that have refereed for many, many years, you may recall that for indirect free kicks, we were required to run down the field with our arms in the air forever until it touched another player. Okay? If it's very obvious it's an indirect free kick, there's no chance that anybody can score. You can put your arm down. Okay? Kicking an object. If someone kicks an object at an opponent or match official, it is now punished by a direct free kick. Penalty kicks. If you have a penalty kick and the kicker is somehow injured, that player may be treated on the field of play, and that player can also take the penalty kick. Okay? There is no need to actually send that player off the field anymore. Okay? Be aware. If you give a caution or a send-off and the player is treated, they may also remain. Okay? So keep that in mind when you're dealing with penalty kicks. All right? Goalkeepers must not be touching the goalpost, crossbar, or net, and they must not be moving. The "they" applies to the goalpost, the net, or the crossbar. Okay? It's written very weird, and I had to go over this like 4 times, okay? The they is the goalpost, crossbar, or the net, okay? None of that can be moving, okay? Now, if it's windy or some other type of other condition, again, use common sense, or wait for a break in the wind, okay? If an offense occurs before a penalty kick is taken, the kick is not taken, the offender may receive a yellow red card, but the penalty kick must still be taken. Basically what the saying is you cannot take away a restart if there's some type of misconduct, okay? So once you've awarded the penalty kick, even if a fight breaks out between the kicker and the goalkeeper, send them both off, you still have to take the penalty kick, okay? You cannot change that restart. An example. Okay? Goalkeepers must have part of their foot now on the line before the kick is taken. Just part of the foot. Okay? They can be jumping up and down as long as they're within the plane of the goal line underneath the goal. Okay? But as long as part of their foot is on there, they can come out a yard in order to try to save the ball. That's acceptable. Okay? For our very fashion-conscious referees, players' equipment. They are allowed to wear multicolored patterned shirts underneath their jersey, okay? I believe last year it talked about that the hem of the sleeve had to be the same color as the undershirt or something to that effect, and nobody knows what a hem is. That's fine. It's real simple. As long as it's the same color as a sleeve or something similar, just let it go, okay? We are also now allowing delayed yellow and red cards for quick free kicks, okay? So if you're going to issue misconduct, provided that you have not begun your misconduct process, okay? If the team elects to quickly play the ball, you can delay giving that yellow or red card, okay? Now I'll give you a piece of advice. If it's a red card, I would really strongly hesitate that unless that ball is like on its way into the goal, stop play, delay the restart, and send off that player, okay? You gain nothing by waiting for the next stoppage in order to go back and send a player off, okay? If it's a caution, you can wait, provided that the game will allow it, right? But if it's a red card, unless that ball is they're at the top and ready to crank it, stop play, delay the restart, and send off the player, okay? Because a player that knows that they're being sent off has no advantage or no incentive to play fair.
Right.
Same thing with the second game. Do you have an example? Foul 1, foul 2, referee blows whistle. Perfect. Okay.
So you still go back and give the yellow.
You would still go back and give the yellow card, okay? But you allow play to continue because you want the goal. Okay. Okay. Substitutes. Player who's being substituted must leave the field by the nearest point in the touchline or goal line, unless the referee indicates any other reason. Verbal offenses are now penalized with an indirect free kick. Okay. The previous version it said something different. Okay. Team officials guilty of misconduct will be shown a yellow or red card. The offender cannot be identified to senior coach or technical staff. And that pretty much concludes the changes to the laws of the game. Again, just quick tips. Captains can be your friend, but if the captain doesn't want to be your friend, that's okay too. But use captains as needed as a resource on the field in order to manage the game, okay? Once you've established that relationship with the captain, if they don't want to cooperate with you, then at that point you can tell the captain, hey, I attempted to use you as a resource and you elected not to, and now I have to take a different type of justice, okay? At that point, now the captain and you can work on rebuilding that relationship, okay? But just remember, they're there for you as a resource, okay? Players must also respect all decisions made by referees and other match officials, even if they appear to be wrong, okay? That is not creative license to go out and referee as you see fit, but it's saying that they still have to respect you even if you might have made the incorrect decision. As always, a version of the new laws of the game can be found online. You can go to the ifab.com. I think I said ifab.org earlier, but anyways, the ifab.com has all the new changes on there. They have presentations on there of video changes, of the videos of the changes that you can also watch. You can also download their app if you, one of the cool smartphone people and you want an app on your iPad or something like that. The changes actually get uploaded directly into the app. So you'll always have the most recent version of the laws of the game to reference. Okay? So if you are a referee in Oregon doing OYSA games, OYSA in their rules of competition are going to modify it for substitution. The players will still leave, as they traditionally do now, at the halfway line between the two technical areas on the field. Okay? So again, check your rules of competition before you go out and actually begin refereeing.